But these isotopes have half-lives of 1 or 2 months, so they must have been produced recently.
And the only place they could have come from was a nuclear explosion. But the US hadn't performed any tests that year, so the only possible conclusion was that the Soviet Union had figured out how to make a nuclear bomb. This was the news the Americans had been dreading. Their military supremacy, achieved through the Manhattan Project, was quickly fading.
This makes the problem of Western Europe and the United States far more serious than it was before, and perhaps makes the imminence of war greater.
Some thought their best course of action was to launch an unprovoked nuclear strike against the Soviets while they were still ahead. In the words of Navy Secretary Matthews, to become aggressors for peace. John von Neumann, the founder of game theory, said, "If you say, why not bomb them tomorrow, I say, why not bomb them today? If you say today at 5 o'clock, I say, why not at 1 o'clock?
Something needed to be done about nuclear weapons, and fast. But what?
In 1950, the RAND Corporation, a US-based think tank, was studying this question. And as part of this research, they turned to game theory. That same year, 2 mathematicians at RAND had invented a new game, one which, unbeknownst to them at the time, closely resembled the US-Soviet conflict.
This game is now known as the prisoner's dilemma. So let's play a game.
A banker with a chest full of gold coins invites you and another player to play against each other. You each get 2 choices. You can cooperate or you can defect. If you both cooperate, you each get 3 coins. If one of you cooperates but the other defects, then the one who defected gets 5 coins and the other gets nothing. And if you both defect, then you each get a coin. The goal of the game is simple, to get as many coins as you can.
So, what would you do?
Suppose your opponent cooperates, then you could also cooperate and get 3 coins. Or you could defect and get 5 coins instead. So you are better off defecting. But what if your opponent defects instead? Well, you could cooperate and get no coins, or you could defect and at least get 1 coin. So no matter what your opponent does, your best option is always to defect.
Now, if your opponent is also rational, they will reach the same conclusion and therefore also defect.
As a result, when you both act rationally, you both end up in the suboptimal situation, getting 1 coin each, when you could have gotten 3 instead. In the case of the US and Soviet Union, this led both countries to develop huge nuclear arsenals of tens of thousands of nuclear weapons each, more than enough to destroy each other many times over.
But since both countries had nukes, neither could use them. And both countries spent around $10 trillion developing these weapons. Both would have been better off if they had cooperated and agreed not to develop this technology further. But since they both acted in their own best interest, they ended up in a situation where everyone was worse off. The Prisoner's Dilemma is one of the most famous games in game theory. Thousands and thousands of papers have been published on versions of this game. In part, that's because it pops up everywhere.
Impalas, living in between African woodlands and savannas, are prone to catching ticks, which can lead to infectious diseases, paralysis, even death. So it's important for impalas to remove ticks, and they do this by grooming. But they can't reach all the spots on their bodies, and therefore they need another impala to groom them. Now, grooming someone else comes at a cost. It costs saliva, electrolytes, time, and attention, all vital resources under the hot African sun, where a predator could strike at any moment. So for the other impala, it would be best not to pay this cost. But then again, it too will need help grooming. So all impalas face a choice. Should they groom each other or not? In other words, should they cooperate or defect?
Well, if they only interact once, then the rational solution is always to defect. That other impala is never going to help you, so why bother? But the thing about a lot of problems is that they're not a single prisoner's dilemma.
Impalas see each other day after day, and the same situation keeps happening over and over again. So that changes the problem. Because instead of playing the prisoner's dilemma just once, you're now playing it many, many times. And if I defect now, then my opponent will know that I defected, and they can use that against me in the future. So, what is the best strategy in this repeated game? That is what Robert Axelrod, a political scientist, wanted to find out. So in 1980, he decided to hold a computer tournament.
He invited some of the world's leading game theorists from many different subjects to submit computer programs that would play each other.
Axelrod called these programs strategies. Each strategy would face off against every other strategy and against a copy of itself. And each matchup would go for 200 rounds. That's important, and we'll come back to it. Now, Axelrod used points instead of coins, but the payoffs were the same. The goal of the tournament was to win as many points as possible. And in the end, the whole tournament was repeated 5 times over to ensure the success was robust and not just a fluke. Axelrod gave an example of a simple strategy. It would start each game by cooperating and only defect after its opponent had defected twice in a row. In total, Axelrod received 14 strategies, and he added a 15th called random, which just randomly cooperates or defects 50% of the time. All strategies were loaded onto a single computer where they faced off against each other. One of the strategies was called Friedman. It starts off by cooperating, but if its opponent defects just once, it will keep defecting for the remainder of the game. Another strategy was called Joss. It also starts by cooperating, but then it just copies what the other player did on the last move. Then around 10% of the time, Joss gets sneaky and defects. There was also a rather elaborate strategy called Grass Camp. This strategy works the same as Joss, but instead of defecting probabilistically, Grass Camp defects in the 50th round, to try and probe the strategy of its opponent and see if it can take advantage of any weaknesses. The most elaborate strategy was Name Withheld, with 77 lines of code. After all the games were played, the results were tallied up and the leaderboard established.
The crazy thing was that the simplest program ended up winning, a program that came to be called Tit for Tat.
Tit for Tat starts by cooperating, and then it copies exactly what its opponent did in the last move. So it would follow cooperation with cooperation and defection with defection. But only once. If its opponent goes back to cooperating, so does Tit for Tat. When Tit for Tat played against Friedman, both started by cooperating, and they kept cooperating, both ending up with perfect scores for complete cooperation. When Tit for Tat played against Joss, they too started by cooperating, but then on the 6th move, Joss defected. This sparked a series of back and forth defections, a sort of echo effect.
Okay, so now you've got this alternating thing, which will remind you of some of the politics of the world today, where we have to do something to you because of what you did to us. And then when this weird program throws in a second unprovoked defection, now it's really bad, because now both programs are going to defect on each other for the rest of the game. And that's also like some of the things that we're seeing in politics today and in international relations.
As a result of these mutual retaliations, both Tit for Tat and Joss did poorly.
But because Tit for Tat managed to cooperate with enough other strategies, it still won the tournament.
We're being joined.
Hey, my God, there's Professor Axelrod.
Hey, Stephen Schwartz.
Wow, what a treat this is.
And I imagine initially it'd be sort of like computer chess, where you need a pretty complicated program to play a sophisticated game. But in fact, it was not like that at all. It was the simplest strategy that did the best. So I analyzed how that happened.
Axelrod found that all the best performing strategies, including Tit for Tat, shared 4 qualities.
First, they were all nice, which just means they are not the first to defect. So Tit for Tat is a nice strategy. It can defect, but only in retaliation. The opposite of nice is nasty. That's a strategy that defects first. So Joss is nasty. Out of the 15 strategies in the tournament, 8 were nice and 7 nasty. The top 8 strategies were all nice, and even the worst performing nice strategy still far outscored the best performing nasty one. The second important quality was being forgiving. A forgiving strategy is one that can retaliate, but it doesn't hold a grudge. So tit for tat is a forgiving strategy. It retaliates when its opponent defects, but it doesn't let defections from before the last round influence its current decisions. Friedman, on the other hand, is maximally unforgiving.
After the first defection, just from the opponent would defect for the rest of the game. Okay, that's it. No mercy. And that might feel good to do, but it doesn't end up working out well in the long run.
This conclusion, that it pays to be nice and forgiving, came as a shock to the experts. Many had tried to be tricky and create subtle, nasty strategies to beat their opponent and eke out an advantage. But they all failed. Instead, in this tournament, nice guys finished first. Now, tit for tat is quite forgiving, but it's possible to be even more forgiving. Axelrod's sample strategy only defects after its opponent defected twice in a row. It was tit for two tats. Now, that might sound overly generous, but when Axelrod ran the numbers, he found that if anyone had submitted the sample strategy, they would have won the tournament.
I mean, it's so clever. There's so many layers to this story. After Axelrod published his analysis of what happened, or circulated it among these game theorists, he said, now that we all know what worked well, let's try again.
So he announced a second tournament where everything would be the same except for one change, the number of rounds per game.
See, in the first tournament, each game lasted precisely 200 rounds. And that is important, because if you know when the last round is, then there's no reason to cooperate in that round, so you're better off defecting. Of course, your opponent should reason the same, and so they should also defect in the last round. But if you both anticipate defection in the last round, then there's no reason for you to cooperate in the second to last round, or the round before that, and so on all the way to the very first round.
And so in Axelrod's tournament, it was a very important thing that the players didn't know exactly how long they were going to be playing. They knew on average it would be 200 rounds, but there was a random number generator that prevented them from knowing with certainty.
Yeah, if you're not sure when it ends, then you have to kind of keep cooperating because it might keep going and you might need them on your side. Yeah.
For this second tournament, Axelrod received 62 entries and again added random. The contestants had gotten the results and analysis from the first tournament and could use this information to their advantage. This created two camps. Some thought that clearly being nice and forgiving were winning qualities, so they submitted nice and forgiving strategies. One even submitted tit for two tats. The second camp anticipated that others would be nice and extra forgiving. Therefore, they submitted nasty strategies to try to take advantage of those that were extra forgiving. One such strategy was called Tester. It would defect on the first move to see how its opponent reacted. If it retaliated, Tester would apologize and play tit for tat for the remainder of the game. If it didn't retaliate, Tester would defect every other move after that. But again, being nasty didn't pay.
And once again, tit for tat was the most effective.
Nice strategies again did much better. In the top 15, only one was not nice. Similarly, in the bottom 15, only one was not nasty.
After the second tournament, Axelrod identified the other qualities that distinguished the better performing strategies.
The third is being retaliatory, which means if your opponent defects, strike back immediately. Don't be a pushover. Always cooperate is a total pushover, and so it's very easy to take advantage of. Tit for tat, on the other hand, is very hard to take advantage of. The last quality that Axelrod identified is being clear.
Programs that were too opaque, that were too similar to a random program, you couldn't figure them out because they were so complicated. It was very hard to establish any pattern of trust with a program like that because you couldn't figure out what it was doing. Not you, I mean the other programs it was playing couldn't figure them out. And so they would end up more or less defaulting to thinking every turn is like the last time I'm going to see you, so I might as well defect. What to me is mind-blowing about this is that these four principles, being nice, forgiving, provocable, and clear, is a lot like the morality that has evolved around the world that is often summarized as an eye for an eye. It's not Christianity, by the way. It's not turn the other cheek philosophy. It's some older philosophy
What's interesting is that while Tit for Tats would have won the first tournament, it only came 24th in the second tournament.
This highlights an important fact. In the repeated prisoner's dilemma, there is no single best strategy. The strategy that performs best always depends on the other strategies it's interacting with.
For example, if you put Tit for Tat in an environment with only the ultimate bullies of always defect, then Tit for Tat comes in last.
I wanted to see whether, for example, the Tit for Tat did well because it did well with really stupid rules that didn't do well at all themselves, that basically it took advantage of people.
So he ran a simulation where successful strategies in one generation would see their numbers grow, and unsuccessful ones would see their numbers drop. In this simulation, the worst performing strategies quickly shrink and go extinct, while the top performing strategies become more common. Harrington, the only nasty strategy in the top 15, first grew quickly, but then as the strategies it was preying on went extinct, Harrington's numbers also quickly dropped.
This shows a main benefit of this simulation because it tests how well a strategy does with other successful strategies.
After 1,000 generations, the proportions are mostly stable, and only nice strategies survive. Again, Tit for Tat comes out on top, representing 14.5% of the total population.
Now, this process may sound similar to evolution, but there is a subtle difference, which is that in this case there are no mutations, so it's actually an ecological simulation.
But what if the world you started in was different?
Imagine a world that is a really nasty place to live, more or less populated with players that always defect. Except there's a little cluster of tit-for-tat players that live in some kind of nucleus. And they get to play with each other a lot because they're geographically sequestered. They will start building up a lot of points, and also, because that translates into offspring, they'll start to take over the population. So, in fact, Axelrod showed that a little island of cooperation can emerge and spread, and eventually will take over the world, which is fantastic. How can cooperation emerge in a population of players who are self-interested, who are not trying to be good because they're good-hearted? You don't have to be altruistic. You could be looking out for number one for yourself and your own interests, and yet cooperation can still emerge.
Some argue that this could explain how we went from a world full of completely selfish organisms, where every organism only cared about themselves, to one where cooperation emerged and flourished. From impalas grooming each other to fish cleaning sharks. Many life forms experience conflicts similar to the prisoner's dilemma, but because they don't interact just once, both can be better off by cooperating. And this doesn't require trust or conscious thought either, because the strategy could be encoded in DNA. As long as it performs better than the other strategies, it can take over a population.
Axelrod's insights were applied to areas like evolutionary biology and international conflicts. But there was one aspect that his original tournaments didn't cover. What happens if there is a little bit of random error in the game, some noise in the system? For example, one player tries to cooperate, but it comes across as a defection. Little errors like this happen in the real world all the time.
Like in 1983, the Soviet satellite-based early warning system detected the launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile from the US. But the US hadn't launched anything. The Soviet system had confused sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds with a ballistic missile. Thankfully, Stanislav Petrov, the Soviet officer on duty, dismissed the alarm.
But this example shows the potential costs of a signal error and the importance of studying the effects of noise on those strategies.
The word game sounds like it's a children's game, or, there's something a misnomer maybe in calling it game theory, because these are life and death matters, obviously. And as you mentioned that this came up in the Cold War, it could actually be life and death of the whole planet. We could annihilate human civilization. So these are not games in any kind of trivial sense. It's just the term that is used by mathematicians and theorists.
When Tit for Tat plays against itself in a noisy environment, both start off by cooperating. But if a single cooperation is perceived as a defection, then the other tit-for-tat retaliates, and it sets off a chain of alternating retaliations. And if another cooperation is perceived as a defection, then the rest of the game is constant mutual defection. Therefore, in the long run, both would only get a third of the points they would get in a perfect environment. Tit-for-tat goes from performing very well to performing poorly.
So how do you solve this? Well, you need a reliable way to break out of these echo effects. And one way to do this is by playing tit-for-tat, but with around 10% more forgiveness.
So instead of retaliating after every defection, you only retaliate around 9 out of every 10 times. This helps you break out of those echoes while still being retaliatory enough to not be taken advantage of.
And so we also ran the tournament with noise and generosity. And that did quite well. My favorite example is tit-for-tat does really well, but it could never do better than the player it's playing with.
I mean, think about it. By design, all they can do is lose or draw.
And yet, when the results of all interactions are tallied up, they come out ahead of all other strategies. Similarly, always defect can never lose a game. It can only draw or win. But overall, it performs extremely poorly. This highlights a common misconception, because for many people when they think about winning, they think they need to beat the other person. In games like chess or poker, this is true, since one person's gain is necessarily another person's loss, so these games are zero-sum.
But most of life is not zero-sum. To win, you don't need to get your reward from the other player. Instead, you can get it from the banker. Only in real life, the banker is the world. It is literally everything around you. It is just up to us to find those win-win situations and then work together to unlock those rewards. Cooperation pays, even among rivals.
From 1950 to 1986, the US and Soviet Union had trouble cooperating, and both kept developing nukes. But then, from the late 80s onwards, they started reducing their nuclear stockpiles.
They too had learned how to resolve conflict, rather than making an agreement to abolish all nuclear arms at once and essentially turning it into
What's this, ball? Bro! Oh my God! What a difference, man!
Yeah, games should be fulfilling. And I think that if a game is fulfilling, that's what matters a whole lot more than a game being, hard or easy. I think it's hilarious that people think Dark Souls is hard. When Ninja Gaiden Black, I tried to play it on the hardest difficulty. I couldn't even get past the first level. That was insanely f***ing hard. It was ridiculously f***ing hard. So what am I doing thinking about like, oh, Dark Souls is hard? Dark Souls is a joke compared to Ninja Gaiden. Yeah, it's insane. You remember Battletoads? It was hard as yeah, absolutely. And there were other games too, like Dragon's Lair, The Lion King on Super Nintendo. Absolutely. Yeah, games should be fulfilling.
This video is brought to you by Raycon, who just launched an all-new product, their essential open earbuds. Enjoy crisp, clear history. A patchy portfolio of work prior has earned Bloober a modest fandom, but a fairly vast army of detractors, those arguing that Bloober Team's work was derivative and that it lacked a true grasp of what made the survival horror genre compelling. Then, along comes Silent Hill 2 Remake, and even the most strident of Bloober Team critics had to admit that they did pretty extraordinary work there. Inspired source material helped, absolutely, But Bloober Team's interventions in the storytelling were deft and additive. The technology that brought the storytelling to life, particularly performance capture, was industry-leading. The audio design, similarly, industry-leading. The expanded level design, new puzzles, and improved combat sandbox weren't perfect, but they were clear steps up over the original, and when combined with everything else, Silent Hill 2 Remake is the definitive way to enjoy that horror masterpiece. An incredibly tricky needle for Bloober Team to thread, given how easy it would have been to mess up something so nuanced and so beloved, but they pulled it off. Naturally then, the expectations of Bloober Team's next release are going to be substantially elevated, centered on one main question. Does Silent Hill 2 Remake mark a clear line break between the studio's patchy history and a future that sees them a preeminent survival horror developer? Or was Silent Hill 2 Remake an anomaly, and is Bloober Team still clawing their way toward that brighter future, that new dawn, you might say? The truth is somewhere in the middle, and I think where you're going to land on that question is really going to depend on how much grace you're willing to extend to Bloober Team. On the one hand, this is a really fantastic action survival horror experience, full of butt-clenching encounters and a resource economy that is among the best tuned I've ever experienced in a survival horror game. At the same time, its encounter design and resource economy can be so grueling that it's naturally going to push out a subset of players who come to these sorts of games more for horror and setting and storytelling, rather than a demanding and relentless combat puzzle. Chronos also wears its inspirations very clearly on its sleeve. It's the action survival horror of Resident Evil 4 crossed with the weighty body horror sci-fi of Dead Space, and its rendition of both of those things is excellent, but in such slavish commitment to those inspirations, Chronos can feel a little grab bag, combining a number of disparate elements that don't logically fit together while also failing to establish its own identity. This failure is manifest most notably in storytelling, always the Achilles heel of Bloober Team, and it remains as such here. Promising time-hopping quest to save humanity soon fizzles out into a confusing and incomprehensible stew of personal drama with none of the economical writing, deft performances, and technical mastery that made Silent Hill 2 Remake so compelling. It's possible to dwell on all the things that Chronos The New Dawn gets wrong and rightly dismiss it for its derivativeness, its poor story, its overwrought performances, and its general lack of aura in a genre where aura counts for quite a lot. But there's another reading, and it's one that centers on the action survival horror gameplay, which, while demanding, is absolutely superb. And I only got more excited by combat encounters as I moved through the game's 13-hour runtime. This movement, these enemies, these weapons, this scenario design, the resource economy tuning, it's all absolutely brilliant stuff. And had Chronos managed to land that storytelling and arrive at a stronger sense of identity, this would have been a very easy, strong recommend. But even without those things, Chronos The New Dawn still fills a desperately empty niche, that of the Dead Space spiritual successor. We will never get one from EA, sadly. We got one in the form of Callisto Protocol, and it was terrible. Bloober Team have given us one here, and while it isn't perfect, it's still very much worth experiencing if you're chasing those Dead Space highs.
About the outbreak, about the disease.
Chronos The New Dawn has an intriguing premise. You are a lady Big Daddy with a helmet design that I strongly considered blurring out to avoid getting demonetized. You awaken in the moment when one of your compatriots falls, an automated failsafe mechanism that puts you into the field only when another fails. Your mission, first, find your fallen comrade, and second, complete his mission. Much of this is taken on faith in the opening hour or two, and indeed it takes some time for Chronos to hit its storytelling stride. Eventually though, things begin to fall into place. You are a traveler, named for your ability to travel through rifts in time. Your mission is to help avert the end of the world. A plague of mysterious origins all but wiped out humanity long ago, and your collective sends these travelers back through time to gather clues that might provide some deliverance. The clue gathering process is invasive. Rather than just question people, the traveler must extract their essence. And while it never shows exactly what this entails, it's highly unlikely that all these wiry hand things are for relaxing head massages. All of this is an extremely strong opening. The mystery of the traveler, the mystery of the plague, the time-traveling hook, and how much it opens up the storytelling possibilities. This really could have gone places, great places in fact. Sadly, it all just spins its wheels for a good 10 or so hours before taking a very disappointing and unsatisfying left turn that doesn't deliver on any of the premise's potential. It all drifts apart slowly, bit by bit, but surely the starting point for that is the traveler herself. She's awkwardly robotic in her line delivery, which is obviously how she's been directed, but it just doesn't quite work because the traveler sounds like a human putting on a robotic affect rather than someone or something that is inherently robotic. I mean, just take a listen to some of the dialogue here.
Edward Vishnevsky, where is he? Is he keeping you here? The knowledge you have accumulated may be evaluated as youthful. I have not suffered any serious damage. I am fit to proceed with my purpose.
That's her delivery for 13 hours straight, and while she does become more emotive in the final act of the game, it still feels awkward because efforts to humanize her don't go nearly far enough. It's a halfway point between the very human and relatable Celine from Returnal and the silent badassery of Samus from Metroid. It just doesn't quite work here. The supporting cast are no better, unfortunately. There's another traveler you meet during your journey, but he too has this one foot in, one foot out roboticism. The human characters you meet during your time dives are not great either. Typically very panicked when you meet them, which makes sense since they're suddenly being confronted by a heavily armored scuba diver trying to steal their brains, but even then the voice work feels overdone, and the facial capture doesn't hold a candle to what Bloober Team delivered in Silent Hill 2 Remake.
But it's dangerous outside. The disease! Everyone outside is exposed! That's why I brought her here!
Still, even with these shortcomings, I was very bought into what Bloober Team were doing here, because the idea of going back in time to piece together the mystery of a deadly plague so that you can stop it is pretty compelling. Sadly though, the game just kind of gives up on that towards the back end. I guess that's not quite accurate. It doesn't give up on it, but it essentially narrows the focus right down to something that is frankly way less interesting and very unsatisfying. No spoilers, of course, but I found the final act of this game to be profoundly disappointing as it becomes this strangely intimate human story starring some decidedly inhuman characters. The pivot to a different story focus might have worked had the cast been more appropriate for the story being told, or had the characters' arcs been more believable or more felt. In absence of those things, the final act feels wasteful, squandering a strong beginning on a disappointing end. As a package, Chronos: The New Dawn loses a lot of momentum owing to this weak story and cast. This is a genre that has produced some of the all-time best stories and characters and mysteries of any genre. One of the biggest reasons that people come to these sorts of games is to be immersed in a story, one that rewards all of the tension and struggle that precedes each new cutscene. Chronos is relentlessly tense, more so than most other survival horror games in fact, but the hope of rewarding story beats soon fades as the game continues to breadcrumb unsatisfying clues, and it completely vanishes in the final act when things go completely off the rails. Bloober Team had a chance to invent a new, compelling, mysterious universe here, one that might serve as the backbone for a new survival horror franchise. If Chronos does live on as a franchise, it's not going to be because of its storytelling, it's going to be because of its level design and gameplay, which are thankfully excellent.
Caution advised.
Chronos: The New Dawn is set in a post-apocalyptic version of Poland. The mutation plague of long past is now referred to as the Change, and its most manifest impact is that everyone is dead, or all the humans at least. Cats still seem to exist for some reason, and one of the recurring exploration puzzles in the game is to follow the sound of a cat's meow so that you can pat them, at which point they'll give you a nice little present.
Hello, cat.
Chronos is set in a number of locations which are a little tropey in the survival horror landscape, but the rendition of them here is so striking that it's difficult to be cynical about them. Bloober Team have always struggled in the narrative department, but they've always punched well above their weight when it comes to art direction and technical wizardry, and it's no different here. At times, Chronos looks incredible. Its environment's comprised of Soviet-inspired brutalism being strangled by postulating organic matter. Visuals are one of Chronos' biggest selling points, not just because, pretty graphics good, because every environment is so detailed in its rendition that the world immerses you in ways that the story fails to do. Part of me thinks that had Chronos had no dialogue at all, it might have been a stronger game, since these worlds would inspire your imagination to author a better, more compelling story than Bloober Team were able to.
Rest.
Because to me, like, I'm so confident in my sexuality, a guy can touch my and it doesn't even bother me. I could suck it wouldn't be gay. That's how not gay I am.
Anyways, a clean and well-packed sign is important to customer experience, so LC sign would clean a sign, wrap with EBE, and wrap with foam cutting.
The thing is, no, I'm being serious. I am. What's wrong with that? Because to me, like, I'm so confident in my sexuality, a guy can touch my and it doesn't even bother me. I could suck it wouldn't be gay. That's how not gay I am.
Anyways, a clean and well-packed sign is important to customer experience, so LC sign would clean a
As I was saying, we'll address part of it, okay? For the record, chat, this is likely all we're gonna look at today regarding this subject. This is all I'm comfortable talking about in this respect, okay? After this, we're gonna move on and probably try and look at more uplifting things, you know, keep it up, keep the vibes up, all that. So, what did Mr. Asman say regarding Charlie Kirk's tragedy? Anyone surprised what happened to Charlie Kirk hasn't been paying attention, go anywhere on Reddit, Twitter, and you'll find thousands of unhinged direct calls to violence over politics. Unless it's addressed for what it is, things like this will continue to happen. How many times do we see death threats every day on this channel? Like, how often do I use the term political schizos, chat? We see it every day on Twitter, and every day on Blue Sky, and every day on Reddit. Not too, like, recently, we just saw it with Karoni playing Hogwarts Legacy, a Japanese VTuber, one of the most famous VTubers on the planet right now. There's unhinged people saying they want to see bad things happen to her. We see it every day with Asman, people wishing harm on him on Reddit constantly, on Twitter. We see it with me, I get death threats all the time. It has very unfortunately become normalized to call for violence against people you disagree with politically. Or on anything in that matter. Like, again, until something is done about it, it will keep happening. Until websites like Reddit, that are incredibly soft on death threats, as long as they're towards the right people, quote unquote, are fine. It will keep happening. Until there's arrests made on repeat offenders that constantly call for violence, it will keep happening. Until there's arrests made on these people that are so fucking unhinged, like, it's just, it's really overwhelming. Obviously, this can go too far. Obviously, the sentiment can be taken and we could end up like the UK where you can get arrested for mean tweets. But there's a clear, undeniable difference between being mean and calling for someone's death. Everybody knows this. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. Everyone can make this distinction. There's also a conversation to be had as well about the dehumanization of your political enemies, of like white men and anyone that you don't like. Like I said earlier, I was gonna talk about mental hospitals that I found. There was like a post on Twitter about mental hospitals that I found today. But I'm not gonna do that now. We're gonna save it for another day, okay? I'm saving it. But the point is, you combine an extremely mentally ill, terminally online population with an online culture that normalizes calling for violence. And this is what you get. You dehumanize people you don't like. You gaslight them and say that their political stances are violent towards your existence, and guess what happens? Retards actually believe what they're saying, and they believe it 100%, and then this happens. Calling everyone a T is like until the term doesn't mean anything anymore. It's also not helping at all, man. It's crying wolf? Yeah, pretty much. And let me be clear, I do not want speech policed. That's fucking dumb. That's retarded. I don't want to end up like the UK. But I do think that social media moderation needs to be held to a higher standard. I don't think it's hard to make the distinction between serious calls for violence and just political banter. And the unfortunate truth of this is that I think a lot of these websites do know the difference, but the problem is that the moderation team of these websites agree with these unhinged opinions and calls for violence. That's the honest truth of it, honestly. It's really, really sad to see this. I just got news he got pronounced dead. absolutely horrible. Chat, seriously, prayers for him and his family. This is actually, like, a tragedy, man. This is awful. That's so fucking sad, man. Dude, he's leaving behind a wife and children, and, like, I'm pretty sure. That's so fucking heinous. It seriously makes me so upset to see this. This is kind of on a side note. One of the only reasons I ever got into the content that I do now, where I'm very, like, soft political or politically adjacent, as some people say, like, I focus on culture war topics and video games. The only reason I'm comfortable doing this is because I'm a VTuber. I'm completely anonymous. I can only imagine how people that actually reveal their face must feel. How long is it gonna be until it's not just, like, the dudes that go out into the public to speak, but it's a streamer in their home that gets killed, man? That's the direction we're heading. I'm not even kidding. It's horrible. I feel like every year people get a little bit more insane, a little bit more unhinged, a little bit more schizo. The messages that get unmoderated and are, like, have these rather selectively moderated websites gets a little bit more fucking bold and more unhinged. Anyway, it's just, like, sad, man. I won't go into much more. Like, prayers for their family. It's a sad day. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. It's really sad. It is awful. Everybody has to be careful. Yes, I know people are celebrating. I know it's awful. Just counteract it with prayers for their family and saying, like, this is horrible and condemning it. Everyone should be a VTuber, honestly. I am extremely privileged that I don't have to worry about my safety for, like, my life. Like, I have fears, but I don't fear it near as much as someone who would obviously reveal their face or, like, you know, revealing where they live. Cause, like, I'm pretty secretive. I don't want to dwell on this too much. I'm a girl. I get pretty emotional when I hear about people dying and stuff. Like, it's really sad. Yeah. Nobody kept to Kirsha? Yeah, even in Kirsha, like, that stuff. Is it a girl thing? No, I'm just being honest. Like, I have a hard time putting a lid on it. A lot of sad? Yeah, of course. Someone fucking died, man. Sad. What is this? The worst communities of Reddit r/shoplifting. You know what the second worst one is? r/Smuckalana. That's right, you should join right now.
Reddit calls itself the front page of the internet. Scroll deep enough and you'll find horrible communities that feel more like the dark web. Today we'll look at some of the worst groups Reddit has ever seen. So my goal this year is to give you guys double the amount of videos without sacrificing quality. To do that, we gotta keep growing. So 68% of you guys aren't subscribed, and it would mean the world to me if you didn't, and I promise to give you more fire content. I'm Visual Venture. You are awesome. r/shoplifting. Most people feel guilty when they steal, but this subreddit turns stealing into something to be proud of.
Oh, you wanna know the worst part? There's probably people that don't even care about the money, shoplift just to get their Reddit gold on r/shoplifting.
Subreddit was called Shoplifting. It was like a boot camp for thieves. There were posts showing what to wear so security wouldn't notice you stealing. Another post explained how to remove security tags. And one listed the stores that were easiest to shoplift from. They weren't just teaching you how to steal, they were encouraging it. But soon, things started getting messy. Since anyone could join, a few people showed up just to post warnings. They tried to talk sense into the group, explaining how shoplifting was wrong. But
and of course, naturally, in classic Reddit fashion, they very likely told them to kick rocks and got down-dooted.
The others didn't want to hear it. They wanted to feel good about breaking the law. So the subreddit cracked down hard and made strict rules. The first rule was called moralizing.
You cannot be serious. You're actually committing a crime. You're like, stop moral policing me. God, only Reddit would have a down dude system of like, no, we're gonna remove your post because you're moralizing the situation.
Here's how they explained it. Stealing is bad. We get it. Nothing else needs to be said about it, and we are all right with the morality of our actions. They even called themselves a wonderful community of allegedly corrupt and soulless individuals. This meant no preaching, no guilt tripping, no criticizing shoplifters. If you broke that rule, your post got deleted, and you got banned. No second chances. But moralizing was just one rule out of 6.
Dude, imagine being one of the mods and he's like, actually, this is moral grandstanding. I'm gonna delete this post. I'm gonna ban you from the subreddit. Please reconsider your actions.
The rule was about pictures. Members posted pictures of the stuff they stole. Groceries, makeup, electronics, anything they could get their hands on. But the moderators wanted the pictures to be educational, so they made a rule called lack of information. It said all posts must now include a short description on how the items were lifted. Violation is removal of post. Then there was rule 6. It was about violence. Advocating violence is unacceptable. We might have criminal intent, but there is no desire to physically harm another person.
What if you're stealing food? Aren't you technically physically harming another person by stealing their food? Yeah, that seems like a loophole right there.
Reddit was like a support group for thieves, and members were genuinely happy. One even wrote, "This feels like a best friend group chat. I love you all so much." As messed up as that sounds,
saying you love another Redditor, that's puke-worthy.
the community kept growing. At its peak, it had over 77,000 members. But soon, people outside the group started hearing about it. Major vlogs and news sites picked up the story. Obviously, the general public wasn't okay with a community teaching 77,000 people how to shoplift. Reddit had to step in. In 2018, Reddit updated its content policy. They added a new rule that banned users from promoting stolen goods. The shoplifting subreddit clearly broke that rule. So in March 2018, Reddit shut it down permanently. The subreddit lasted 9 years before getting banned. And in that time, it probably helped thousands of people get into shoplifting. This next group tried to do something good, but they ended up making a mess. r/find Boston Suspects. For the sake of YouTube, we'll be calling the subreddit Find Boston Suspects, not the other word. In April 2013, a tragedy hit America hard. It happened during the Boston Marathon. Thousands were running through the streets. Suddenly, explosions went off near the finish line, and dozens were injured and some didn't make it. The FBI launched an investigation to find out who was responsible.
Make no mistake, we will get to the bottom of this.
But while the feds worked the case, some people on Reddit thought they could solve it faster than the cops. So they created a subreddit called Find Boston Suspects. But instead of helping, they became the internet's worst detectives. The group started by analyzing photos from the event.
Much of the activity on this page involved Redditors scanning over blurry and grainy images that were taken from the Boston Marathon in an attempt to find a suspect.
They zoomed in on backpacks. They circled random faces. They looked for anything suspicious. Then,
oh my god, this is so dumb. At least with the police work, it doesn't get leaked outside of, like, into the public. The problem is that the public can't control themselves, and you're going to fucking kill and hurt these people for looking like a suspect.
they started pointing fingers with very little proof. Their first suspect was a 17-year-old runner named Salah. Members of the subreddit were convinced that Salah and his coach looked suspicious. The coach had a backpack which they thought contained the devices. So the group spread their photos online, accusing them of being the suspects. Even the New York Post put Salah and his coach on the front page. But there was a big problem. Salah was completely innocent. He was so scared for his safety that he went straight to the police to clear his name. Luckily, he was able to prove that he had nothing to do with the incident. But the Fine Boston Suspects community wasn't done causing trouble. On April 18th, 2013, the FBI released photos of the real suspects. But there was another problem. The photos were blurry, so the faces were hard to make out. And once again, the subreddit didn't wait. They rushed to blame someone else. The subreddit compared the blurry FBI photos to random people on social media. That's when someone brought up a man named Sunil. Sunil was a 22-year-old student who went missing a month before the incident. And just like that, the group decided he must be one of the suspects. They posted his name, they shared his photos, and they spread the accusation across the internet. To them, Sunil wasn't missing, he was hiding.
Police believe this new image from a surveillance camera shows the 22-year-old just moments after leaving his campus apartment.
Sunil's family
I remember seeing conspiracy theories saying that one guy lost his leg, was a war vet, that already lost his leg, so that's how they faked it.
Created a Facebook page to find him, but after the rumor spread, that page was flooded with hate. They accused the family of hiding a terrorist. The harassment was so bad that the family deleted the Facebook page. Somehow, that only made things worse. Now, people were sure they were hiding something. Even journalists started repeating the rumor. One phrase started trending, "We did it, Reddit."
This is why information like this doesn't go to the public, man.
It was what people said when Reddit cracked a big case, but they were completely wrong. On April 19th, the truth came out. The FBI found the real suspects and arrested them. Sunil was innocent. The Fine Boston Suspects subreddit destroyed his reputation for nothing. After the truth came out, Sunil's family was furious. Reddit later apologized to Sunil's family.
We're sorry we ruined your life. Here's a Reddit gold chat.
Then they banned the Fine Boston Suspects subreddit, but it was too late because
Why didn't they ban it before?
because of a wild internet humor, his family was humiliated.
We, knew unconvincingly that this was not Sunil, and it was just very difficult to have the events of that night unfold so aggressively.
Sadly, the story didn't end there. Even though everyone now knew Sunil had nothing to do with the incident, he was still missing. Just days later, police found Sunil lifeless near his school. That meant he wasn't even alive when the incident happened. The Fine Boston Suspects subreddit didn't conduct an investigation. They left.
It takes you 1 fucking second to look it up, man. That's so fucked up.
Led a witch hunt. It was horrible that
That's
two innocent
so
people
bad.
were tracked
So
down as
bad.
if they were suspects. But surprisingly, this stuff happens every day. And it could easily happen to us because data brokers sell our personal information online. You could go to any data broker website right now and buy anyone's data, which to me is honestly insane. And if they buy yours, they have access to your personal information. So this actually happened to me. Some messed up people found my information online, and long story short, it was a mess. After that, I tried removing my data from every website that sold it, but there were just too many. So that's where today's sponsor, Aura, comes in. They scan data broker websites to find where your information.
Today, the episode remembers both Charlie Kirk and Irina Zrutska as the tragedies of both of these cases come to light, and particularly as Charlie Kirk, one of his last things he was covering was Irina. So as I thought I was going to cover this issue and this topic already, I discussed it on a members chat. I decided to bring this to a Fast Facts, to a live, and discuss it wholly. So I think it is entirely appropriate that I cover these together, because at this point, it seems they are inexorably intertwined. Of course, this is a Legal Mindset where I teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney. And once again, it's a somber day. It's a day in which I'm really not going to tell too many jokes because this is a very serious topic. But I will try to bring it in an educational way where you can learn things, maybe learn something, and also focus on some elements of the law which perhaps give some comfort or guidance or clarity in a place and space where there is a lot of extremism, a lot of things on every side of the issue, and perhaps can give you some things to focus on and discuss as objective facts, as best I can. So let's get into it. I do indeed have a PowerPoint for you guys on this. So just some basic facts. Of course, Charlie Kirk, as you may or may not know, was a prominent speaker, a prominent debater, and he had an event today in Utah. Once again, despite what people may portray in the fake summaries or the, kind of other accounts, Charlie Kirk was a moderate conservative. He was a conservative very much in the middle, very much, I would say, you might call it quote-unquote mainstream, and a person who would actually go out there into spaces and engage in debates and engage in discussion and welcome people from the left and the right to come and discuss their ideas and talk about them in an open forum. This is quintessentially American, and this is quintessential free speech, is to go out and do this. And unfortunately, today we learned that Charlie Kirk was indeed killed. He was indeed assassinated. In Utah, you can see left, and there's a very graphic video out there. If you've been on X, you've probably seen it. I cannot show it on YouTube. It cannot be shown on most major platforms. It's very graphic, and you see everything. But you see here, that the aftermath, and then of course there was a suspect here. It turns out this suspect was not indeed the person that did it. And in fact, there was some confusion afterwards as to who did it, with FBI Director Kash Patel not helping at all. First saying the subject for the horrible shooting today that took the life of Charlie Kirk is now in custody. Thank you to local and state authorities in Utah for your partnership. So kind of saying, hey, we've got it, boys. Let's go home. We're done here. We've got him. We're done. It's all over. And then going back and say the subject in custody has been released after interrogation by law enforcement. Our investigation continues, and we will continue to release information in the interest of transparency. Absolutely horrible that this communication, going out there and saying you've got him and then you've not, while people are worrying, while people are, thinking. There's videos circulating of somebody running around on the roof. That was very, very likely the assassin, the shooter. There's pictures out there floating of the rifle. Once again, I'm filming this in morning Asia time, so this is PM, in the U.S. So the details may change, more information may come in throughout the day, but as of the filming of this video, still do not have a 100% positive. And one thing I want to bring up from the law is that death penalty is definitely on the table. This is in Utah, and Utah has two methods, lethal injection and firing squad. But when firing squad is not practical or not available, they can go with firing squad. And what has happened is a lot of the providers of the chemicals that are used for lethal injection actually refuse to provide them to the states, which is one way they're holding up the death penalty and capital punishment. Well, Utah said, hey, well, we're just going to go ahead with the firing squad. And in fact, you can see here in a news article, they were actually ready to do that just this month in September. So, they've got that on the table. So as you might say, live by the bullet, die by the bullet, kind of the modern version of live by the sword, die by the sword, is very much still in the legal code of Utah. So that very much is still on the table. So going to Charlie Kirk, the reason why I wanted to cover Irina Zarutska is because this is the last thing, the literal last major topic he talked about, and he was passionate about this. In fact, this was the last major post he had, which now has millions and millions of views. If you want things to change, it's 100% necessary to politicize the senseless murder of Irina Zarutska, because it was politics that allowed a savage monster with 14 priors to be free in the street to kill her. So I think there's a point in here, regardless of whether you want to say, okay, let's point a finger at, the party as a whole or at X platform as a whole. I think there's a very strong point here, is that we have a big problem, and the people that are covering for this problem of criminals that are out here, habitual felons with 14 priors, just allowing them to freely roam the streets, is insane. And from a legal basis, it essentially neither accomplishes restorative nor rehabilitative or punitive any sort of justice, right? It doesn't get justice for the victim. It doesn't rehabilitate the person. If you're just catch and release, they're not feeling any consequences at all. They're just going out and offending and offending and offending and offending. And this is a very, very, very valid point. And you're seeing people out here, such as the official BLM account, and that's not the base legal mindset, of course, quite the opposite, justifying the murder. saying that people have a right to violence. No, that is not true. I absolutely stand against that. There is no right to violence. Nobody has a right to violence for free speech. If somebody is speaking freely, like Charlie Kirk or even Irna, which, by the way, the funny thing enough, Irna was a supporter of BLM, of Black Lives Matter, but that didn't matter when her life was taken. When her life was taken, you know, her Instagram profile pictures and her Twitter bio, those didn't matter. Those didn't matter at all. They were not considered when she was brutally murdered on video on a Charlotte Lynx train. This is absolutely on mass transit. It was absolutely gruesome, and there's no right to this at all whatsoever, and no justification for this legally whatsoever. And of course, you have Mr. Brown over here, that was the perpetrator. And of course, the incident, very, very much premeditated. He folded out a knife here and executed Irna. And of course, because the state has been lackadaisical, has been laid back, has refused to take action, the federal government is taking action against DeCarlos DeJean Brown Jr. This is the case number filed, the 9th, just yesterday, against him for terrorism attack or other violence against a mass transit system in Mecklenburg County, the Western District of North Carolina. I actually used to live out in the Western District of North Carolina. So very, very, very much engaged on the federal level, and that's because we are seeing a massive problem at the state level. And one thing that's come out, and this is something Charlie Kirk brought up once again, is that you can become a magistrate judge without passing the bar. So essentially, she was an unlicensed attorney, and this is Teresa Stokes. This is the magistrate judge that allowed him free to roam the streets after 14 offenses. Absolutely insane, allowing them to go out there and harm and murder and hurt again and again and again, all because they're an advocate, all because they have what might be called suicidal empathy for these habitual felons. And this really does no good under any theory of justice. There's no theory of justice in which this is valid, the one that's recognized or that we have recognized in the modern Western legal theory, or even in global legal theories. So because of this, I think it's very important to bring up both. I probably will go in a deeper dive on both of these cases, but I just wanted to give you guys a quick update and be here with some rationality and also with some facts. Of course, I know in times like this, when passions run high, facts are scarce, but you always have a home for facts on the Legal Mindset. If you like this video, please like, please comment below, please be respectful to each other, and please, be kind. Charlie Kirk was a person that was reasonable, that was kind, that was thoughtful, and he would want folks to echo the same in his memory. And Irna also seemed like the same sort of person. So guys out there, be respectful, be kind to each other, and I will catch you all on the next one.
Serial killer.
Jesus Christ, you're the Bay Harbor Butcher.
I really hate that name.
Introducing the Shrike, a group of feathery friends found all over the world, including the land down under. Now, at first glance, you may be thinking to yourself, how could this sweet little guy be a vicious killer? I mean, he's so tiny. They only grow up to around 30 centimetres and cap their weight out at 90 grams. And on top of being about as threatening as a fucking teddy bear, look at their claws. A shrike trying to end anything with its talons is like trying to stab a hippopotamus to death with a fucking pool noodle. Listen to the thing, it sings like it's on American Idol. It's a songbird, a branch geek. You'd never heard a fly. But I'm fucking onto you, Tweety.
You give me the fucking creeps, you know that, Dexter?
You may have everyone else fooled, but I know exactly what you are, because shrikes actually have another name. They're called fucking butcher birds. Yeah, that's right, the Dexter jokes actually had a fucking point. You see, when the Bay Harbour butcher bird wants to hunt, they first start by selecting a target.
Tonight's the night.
Now, unlike Dexter, their code tells them they can eat whatever the they want. Insects, mice, meat, even lizards. And once they pick their meal, they wait for the right moment and swoop on it. Now, while those claws might be fucking useless, they do have a signature weapon. That tiny hook on the end of their beak. And once they land on their victim, they slide that hook into its neck, perfectly slotting between their vertebrae and severing their fucking spinal cord. But converting their prey into a vegetable isn't enough. No. These sick fucks keep trophies. Once they have paralyzed their prey and shattered its spine, they will fly its corpse back to their larder, which is either a thorn bush or a fucking barbed wire fence. And once they get home, they fucking impale them. They will then leave that corpse there for days, occasionally biting chunks out of it, eating it like leftovers from the fucking fridge. Dexter collected blood slides. These fuckers create kebabs.
It's about time we paid some homage to the Laz 58 Talon, a sidearm that's better than most folks' favorite primaries, because it's simply better than the majority of primaries. You have 200 damage, medium penetration, one-handed, heat-based energy revolver. The heat aspect means that you can simply fire it infinitely, if you don't fire too fast. I believe it can shoot 7 shots in very quick succession accurately given the 2 recoil. With infinite range comes wacky possibilities. You can destroy the overship shield, which is roughly 2,000 meters away, using the Talon alone. But using that cannon behind me makes it a far faster deal. It's roughly 8 rounds. And then you can one-tap it if you enter one of them little circular doohickeys. When Talon first launched in the Borderline Justice Warbond, I didn't enjoy it. I felt as though the sway was simply too high for the weapon and in comparison to other sidearms. Lo and behold, sway has only gotten worse for every sidearm now, including the Talon, and all of a sudden, I like to use it. That's not why. To be very clear, I've just realized it's insanely impactful for every faction, and it can boost pretty much any light pin weapon to being a lot more useful, depending on what you're facing, because there are some caveats and niche little situations that can happen. I'll be showing y'all what Big Iron doesn't want you to know, especially big cast iron. Get yourself a 5-clad stainless steel pan today from heritagesteel.com using code ODO. I've used mine for the past year. I like it a lot. I cook on it on stream, and I've made eggs that don't stick to the pan consistently with minimal oil and butter if you care about that kind of thing to minimize calories. What Talon does best is dish out respectable damage at a decent tempo. You can fire it fast, 7 shots, quick succession. It's not necessarily always needed, but 3-tapping the Scout Strategy right there, that is something you'll likely be doing often if you take it for automatons, because you can break your legs using light penetration. If you haven't tried it yet, give it a gander, give it a whirl, because even weapons that are medium pin will be taking forever to break those as opposed to going for the jondals, as I had just shown. And Talon will make it so weapons that require light pin for automatons can still be used and feel good, and you just have the option to handle the Scout Stratters that would otherwise be almost an immovable object, so to speak. If you need a rapid fire, that's always an option. Berserkers would be probably the best example. I'm showing that you can block melee with the shield. I don't know why I felt the need to do that. Kind of cool though. Ballistic shield has changed a lot for folks that don't know, I suppose, and I tend to forget just how fun it can be. Talon's high damage allows it to one-shot every single automaton chaff unit except for Scout Stratters. On level 8 and higher, they don't spawn those. Instead, you start seeing Rocket Stratters. Hit the rockets, and usually they die. Sometimes they live. I don't think that's intended. It can take down gunships. It's just not particularly good at taking down gunships. Once you consider how many spawn on higher difficulties, it's a bit of a daunting image. But it does contribute. A teammate has guns that can't one-shot the engine, you both target the exact same engine, it's going to die quicker. It's a foreign concept we call teamwork. I'm a little perturbed that I never tried using Ballistic Shield and Talon. The combination's phenomenal. If you're facing automatons, level 7 and below for regular ones makes sense because you'll have Rocket Stratters that can one-shot the Ballistic Shield, and it's just more ragdolls. For Incineration automatons, this could be freaking sick, because then you have less ragdolls, and the only main worry of a one-shot would be from the Hulks lobbing grenades. But for the shotgun shieldens, I don't believe they can one-shot you now. On the bug front, it's superb in a 4-man group. The whole world won't be crumbling down upon you. And the main reason is Alpha Commanders are broken. They're not spamming Alpha Warriors in a 4-man for some reason. Solo, good luck. Not because Talon can't do good damage, it's just you'll be overwhelmed. You'll one-shot Warriors, Alpha Warriors, Hunters to the body and the face. They'll sometimes live a shot, it just depends. If you hit a leg, they ain't got out of that, at least not one. Wilburs, poof. Super Earth's greatest threat, as we all know, one-tapped. Pouncers as well. Hive Guards, you 2-shot them in the main giant dome, the massive 8-head, they will bleed out momentarily. I should mention when you one-tap Warriors to the face, they are still alive and can kill you. Alpha Commanders and Commanders get 3-shot from pretty much any distance. Shriekers, 1-tap to basically anywhere. You'll occasionally get a hit marker, and I'm talking maybe 1 out of every 50 Shriekers you kill. And the piercing shot is something I should have maybe mentioned. You'll notice it more for bugs than you would bots. Your shots go through other enemies. I think they maintain light penetration and not so much medium though. It's kind of like railgun. When you shoot through enemies, it goes straight to light pin. Effectiveness on stalkers may vary. Landing the headshot is an extremely fast kill. Consider the sway and the fact you don't stagger these monsters. So you have to be landing a headshot on a moving enemy going Mach 10 while you are bobbing and weaving with your arm. It's not much, but you can 3-shot ball spears to the face on higher difficulties when they start having medium pin. On lower difficulties, they have light pin foreheads. It's weird, but just keep that in mind. If you ever get a spore, I wouldn't say seed, the spore faction, sub-faction, you'll go from one-shotting warriors to two-shotting them. Hunters will seem a lot more tanky as well, and this is where I believe the weapon loses a lot of viability. A lot of enjoyment just fades away because this is a faction of enemies that's just simply tankier for the sake of it. So keep that in mind. Now, if you ever get spam with Hive Guards, which can happen, or Alpha Commanders, Talon is going to be useless, just as the majority of weapons will be, so it's nothing unique to it. For the Illuminate, I love taking it to handle the Snitcheroo 9000 ET Phone a Friend Watcher Bot. Purple light that calls in the dropships, because you have next to no recoil, you can rapidly fire off a few shots. Occasionally I feel you can one-shot it, but usually it's going to be 2 to 3. And chances are it'll be loaded, unlike other sidearms, in my case at least. Breaks Harvester shields in roughly 9 shots, and then you can destroy the horn that regenerates the shield so it can't do it anymore. That's important if you don't have time to go for the kill shot. If you're rocking the variable, pretty nice combination. Break shield, on top. Voteless, they get jondled from distance, aka you take off their legs. It's either going to be from a waist shot or a leg shot. Waist is easier to hit since it can go betwixt the legs and whatnot. And because it has light pin piercing damage, you can hit multiple Voteless with a single shot. Hard to do, but it's possible, and it can save you some time. You can one-shot the ablative armor off of Overseers, and then follow it up with whatever does bigger damage. And if you want to use the Talon still, 4 shots. So 1 to strip the armor, and then 3 more to the exposed chest. And then followed up with whatever does one-shot the ablative armor off of Overseers, and then followed up with whatever does bigger damage. And if you want to use the Talon still, 4 shots. So 1 to strip the armor, and then 3 more to the exposed chest. It's not particularly good at taking down stingrays. I'd say it's a lot faster than the gunships, and it's easier to hit as well. The ammunition required is a little hefty though, so it's one of those things where you contribute. The picture for Talon has been painted, but the beauty of art lies in the eye of the beholder. Some folks may say it's a neat gun, but it's not that big iron on my hip. It isn't the Senator, which has heavy armor pin. And I'll say to that, use what you like first and foremost, but second of all, the game's changing there, Cowpoke. These days, you're getting spammed by Hulks at a rate that Senator can't keep up with, which I love. I love the amount of Hulks we're getting because Railgun makes quick work of them. It is so fun. Back to main focus though. Senator takes out gunships in 6 shots. There's 4 gunships in patrol now. So the effort in landing all those 6 shots on 1 engine which is not easy to do given the increased sway. The sway, honestly, is the main reason that I don't use Senator anymore. I used to do solo runs with the weapon. Literally by itself, I'd take Senator, supply backpack, no support weapon, and I'd have a blast. I've done Senator only in a 4-man before as well. But I haven't even thought about doing that because I don't enjoy the sway. And it affects the Senator heavily because it's a weapon that deals high damage, but you have to land precise shots. The main thing I would probably use Senator for currently is taking out the chin turrets on a Factory Strider. Aside from that, the Talon does everything I needed to do, just better. That's where I'm at. And don't get me started on War Striders. The Senator it can do something to it, which is more than you can say for most secondaries, except for Crisp, I think it's godlike. But man, the game has changed in a way where Senator, it's not a bad gun. It's just that Talon, for what I use it for, and for what I think that most folks would use a sidearm for, is simply better. In the beginning, I said Talon's better than most primaries. To visualize that, if you could have a primary weapon and Talon, or just 2 Talons instead, there are a lot of times in which I'd rather just have 2 Talons. Examples would be all the ARs. I'd rather just have 2 Talons, especially if they ever make this way back to what it was, or even better than what it was. Now for marksman rifles, Talon technically does the same thing, but not having a scope does make it tough to hit those shots that are way more fun when using the marksman stuff. So the only one here would probably be Constitution. Submachine gun, Reprimand over Talon. Or maybe there's, I wouldn't say over necessarily, but Reprimand is kind of fun to use. For shotguns, it's going to be Cookout, Instant Breaker, the rest of them, I'd rather take Talon. Explosive Crossbow to Raptor, the utility alone is insane. So having those would be huge. I'd probably take Sickle, Double-Edged Sickle, and Purifier, and maybe Scythe. I would take Talon over Scorcher, by the way. Scorcher, I believe, is currently having a propaganda campaign being pushed to sway players. And for special, I'm taking Variable Torture and possibly Jar. Jar's it's interesting in the current state. But that's what I meant when I said Talon is better than most primaries. Use whatever you like and enjoy. I'm not making these videos to tell you what to play. I'm just trying to show you how good things are. It's very cold in this house. If you like the video, thank you. I hope I can make more you enjoy. Thank you for watching as always. Have a good day.
What do you think so far? Hello?
What?
I asked, what do you think so far? I guess I'll get in the stream soon.
What?
What I'm working on, fuck you.
It's okay, I guess.
No, I'm not talking about the one I'm posting, putting on the stream. I guess I'm gonna post it, a newer one. It should have better contrast. This one I play a lot with contrast. I need to fix some cloud, probably, and probably make sure the damn bird look like a fucking bird.
Warp Pack is nuts. It drastically improves so many different items by simply having it on and using it somewhat correctly. The mobility, utility, even damage it can do is impressive. It even pays for itself since you can teleport into bunker. Damage it can do is impressive. It even pays for itself since you can teleport into bunkers and loot some super shekels. I've been experimenting a ton with this backpack, and there's simply so much to do, and probably things I still don't quite understand that you can do. But there's a lot of information in this video. There'll be timestamps down below. Most of it will be very useful. Some of it pretty niche, but still most likely a ton of fun. It may help to know the control group warbond is what has this item. Well worth it if you ask me. The basics of Warp Pack. You have 3 levels. Purple, blink forward, nothing happens, all well and dandy. Once it's yellow/orange, blink again, you'll take some damage or be lit on fire. If you dive while blinking, you won't be lit on fire, which is kind of nice to mitigate some of the damage. If you blink 3 times and quick be lit on fire, which is kind of nice, or be lit on fire. If you dive while you die and your backpack goes away. You can Thanos snap enemies out of existence by having a stationary reload weapon and teleporting as you reload it. The game has you teleport the same distance as normal, but only for maybe a quarter second, letting you do damage, but putting you right back in the place that you were. Teleporting as you reload it. Snap enemies out of existence by having a stationary reload weapon and teleporting as you reload it. Snap enemies out of existence by having a stationary reload weapon and teleporting as you reload it. The game has you teleport the same distance as normal, but only for maybe a quarter second, letting you do damage, but putting you right back in the place that you were initially. This means a few things. One, you can kill enemies behind cover. 2, you can die in the process, because teleporting into enemies, sometimes they're too tanky and you simply perish. It's not that cut and dry though. A good example is Alpha Commanders. If I hit the body, they explode. It's fantastic. That thing just summoned a Hive Guard, that makes no sense. If I hit the face at all of the orb explosion, we trade. We're both dead. This is weird, because if I saw it on the footage, the majority of the explosion is in the body. But apparently a little bit of it hit the face, therefore I can't play the game no more until I get respawned. HMG and machine gun retain their ammunition unless you're reloading for too long. With this method, you can have an instant one-tap on rather tanky enemies and still have the ability to gun down everyone else with your remaining ammo. Things get weird as you dive deeper. Chicken Legs McGee over here has light armor pin for the legs and takes 2 warps, essentially unfazed. I get aimbotted, whereas the Hulks require a heavy armor pin to break their armor and go through it. Dead in 2 shots. Chargers are the smoking gun, because in 3 hits, I strip the leg armor on its back leg, which requires heavy armor pin. And in around 5 hits, I kill it. It's technically an anti-tank weapon that can be aimed, just be careful of who you're aiming it at. Meatbobs, for instance, are a terrible choice, because 9 times out of 10, you'll perish. Alpha Commanders is 50-50. Hulks, they have a chance to kill you as well. Chargers, same thing. Titans, watch out for the legs. Faction Striders, watch out for the legs. War Striders, legs. I found you're generally safe if you teleport betwixt the legs. Hitting one directly, you go and die. But if you go between, you do damage and eventually kill it. Scout Striders, I think Scout Striders aren't the end of the world, but Rocket Striders, they're pretty tanky. It can one-tap Overseers. Of the few weapons that can handle an enemy so tanky due to their blade of armor. If I'm flying Overseers low enough, they also catch the perishment. Devastators and Berserkers get 1.
In case you didn't know, but you didn't know, I guess you didn't know that you can actually attack with this thing.
Tapped in a decent radius, and they walk pretty slow, are easy to hit, and don't turn insanely fast. On the contrary, I wouldn't recommend warping into a group of warriors. They'll turn quickly and potentially 2-tap you. Also got tanks. Yeah, be careful of that. They'll kill you. The combo potential rivals Wendy's 444 something serious. You can simply have a bunch of bullets following you, teleport through a wall, have a flame sentry be thrown right after, and they'll funnel into the fire like a moth to a flame. Think of the strongest weapons that don't require a support backpack. Those become more powerful by simply using the warp backpack decently. You have a flamethrower. You douse the ground, teleport back like a moth to a flame. Think of the strongest weapons that don't require a support backpack. Those become more powerful by simply using the warp backpack decently. You have a flamethrower. You douse the ground, teleport back before getting hit, saving yourself from taking damage, and dousing the land in the flames of freedom, as mentioned in the previous video juego. If you're the host, it works great. Playing solo, fantastic. If you're the lackeys, a part of the group that aren't those 2 things, it's currently bugged, so you will not be seeing these effects. Exploding crossbow, eruptor, anything that is explosive and you can't be close to an enemy to shoot it, you can back up real quick, fire away. Getting ran down by a Voltless or chased by bugs, toss a cluster bomb at your feet, warp away 2 times, then walk a little bit extra for safety measures, and admire the fireworks. Be warned, this can backfire seldom often. It's not intentional though. I'm at a safe distance and somehow that thing just jumps for me. Charging weapons before teleporting lets you maintain the charge meter. It applies to the Quasar, Epoch, and Railgun, saving you a ton of time and giving you faster kill potential. There's just enough demolition force to break crates, which hold super credits and various other materials. There isn't enough force to destroy the Tesla towers for aluminum.
What?
minute. If a purple barrel is present, things change. And you're gone. There is a massive skill ceiling for the warp pack. The biggest piece of the puzzle is creativity behind movement. You can do some wild stuff in missions. Most importantly, getting stuck in stuff. Warp ship right here, on my way in, and you can melee through the shield, can't shoot, toss down stratagems. That kills you apparently. Be careful of dying. You may find yourself in a very wild predicament, being you can't get your loot. I discovered the lawful act of breaking and entering spaceships accidentally. I went to warp through it, warped inside of it, got stuck, was a bit perplexed, figured out it's repeatable, and then the mountain aspect I can't explain one bit. You can go in mountains sometimes, and they're essentially shield emplacements. You can shoot through it, enemies can't shoot you back. If you're too close to the edge, they can probably punch you, and they can ragdoll you because explosives have a pretty big radius. But you have a lot of space in this here rock, young Patrick Star. Buildings and cities, find the front door, warp inside, and walk around a little bit, explore. And you can exit every single one of these places. That goes to the spaceship and the mountain. If you warp just before hitting the ground, you'll take no damage. It's finicky though, since your character tends to go into a ragdoll. You can also teleport outside of Pelican 1, the extraction ship, and do whatever you see fit for about 10 or so seconds. You might be wondering, does that count as an extraction bonus though, since you're still in the mission? Or you're left behind? Yes, it does. Only two of us extracted, me and mi compadre. Getting back to that movement creativity mumbo jumbo, there's far more things you can do by simply approaching the problem a bit differently. I'm aiming to teleport as high as I can towards the man-made road here. That is where you're supposed to be walking. The game will allow you to teleport on that. Rocks not so much. And this is just an outpost. Not a huge deal, although it does save you some time and so otherwise some damage you take. Here's a stratagem jammer. Those things can be tough, take up tons of resources, and you don't have the ability to drop in resupplies. I teleported straight up by approaching it from the side and going towards the already made path. Science buildings. You can teleport on them hot dog style, drop in a hell bomb that doesn't crush the building, and activate it in a much safer environment. You're not perfectly safe because the bugs can't towards hot dog style, the already made path. Science building. Built safe because the burrow through the ground, hit you instantly, hug you so you can't fire back. Be aware of that. Watch out. And if you destroy the hell bomb before it goes off with the hell pod, you now have a hunting blind. That depending on the height, enemies can't hit you, except for Battle Titans and Shriekers. Hell pod.
Oh, I didn't know that if you're using the fucking hell pod, dropping on the hell bomb, it actually explodes.
Let's take a lot of space in the time warp dimension. If you get knocked off a science building, for instance, you cannot teleport back up because it's in the middle of it. If you get knocked off a science building, for instance, you cannot teleport back up because it's in the middle of it. In this case, my best course of action is to destroy it. Apart from teleporting through buildings on the Illuminate side, you can get on top of their garages on the outskirts of cities, avoiding the meatbobs and bullets for a time being, and catching a small break. Remember how I mentioned it has demolition force? Well, you can close bug nests, which isn't a good thing, because survival ain't exactly possible, as far as I'm aware. You're gonna die if you do this. Warping into bunkers to collect super cycles can be challenging based on the layout. I've never seen this one before, so going at it the same way I normally do wasn't working. Usually, I sit there and hold the warp button. I don't press any buttons and I go in just fine. Here I had to dive to make it in. And normally there'll be resupplies, in this case there wasn't. Potentially super credits, random other materials, good stuff to loot. So I'd recommend going into bunkers whenever you see one. Just watch out for the CCTV. Evacuation missions tend to have indestructible buildings such as this. Teleport on top, and you are safe from anything that is melee. For the bigger buildings, go ahead and teleport on the wall here, and then teleport anything that is melee. For buildings such as this. Teleport on top, and you are safe from anything that is melee. For the bigger buildings, go ahead and teleport on the wall here, and then teleport on top. Now you have some pretty... You can die to that? Don't do that. That's bad. Points of interest, especially sub-objectives, have layouts that you can get used to. This one's not complex at all. Just go ahead and teleport all the way up to the top. I'm at the terminal to deactivate it. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. The time saving is immaculate. For Raise the Flag and Illuminate, there's that tower you have to hell bomb. That's the only way to break it as far as I know. If you toss the hell bomb at the ground, you declare all the vote lists that are endlessly spawning, whereas I can go to high ground near it, and then the villains have to take a detour. I'm safe. They're running to try and beat the brakes off me. They can traverse things they otherwise wouldn't be able to, so you just watch out for that. But in any case, activate it and vamonos. Definitely double dash away, because you have no idea when it's going to go off. If you're low on stims and potentially have no HP left, you can warp into an intact resupply, destroying it, grabbing heals, and being able to pop them instantaneously. This is pretty niche, but could be the make or break in you surviving. Warp Backpack is S+ tier. It's above all other packs in the game, simply because it's great against every faction. The fun of it, utility, movement, there are so many aspects that you can master, and still more to learn as you play the game. See something you want to get over? Try. You might just surprise yourself in what you can pull off. It does so much. What's crazy is the person that everyone loves to hate, Alexis, the guy they blame for all the wrongdoings in the video game, he's who made the Warp Pack. This is his idea. He also made Napalm Barrage, which is not my favorite, but Warp Pack, bro, I feel like he gets a pass on all of his past transgressions. Going forward, we'll keep a tally, but the past is clean slate. That's just me, though. Definitely give it a try, and if nothing else, you should do the whole reload cancel.
This wannabe kick streamer is now fleeing to America from Toronto with $6 to his name after clips of him being awful to his dog on stream went viral, leading to him being doxxed and exposed. Now, he's living out of hotels, off of subscriptions and donations while live streaming himself, essentially ruining his own life.
Monkey business day. You're definitely doing this IIQ and base to be.
Someone give me $20 Canadian platinum, bro. Someone PayPal me $20 Canadian, give me platinum, bro. Someone, I need platinum. Damn, please.
I feel like the only way things can get more pathetic than that if he begged for money to sub to OF Girls. But this dude almost exclusively streams himself doing impressively stupid and awful stuff. I guess his only problem is this is just the first time it's gotten him enough attention to where he's essentially been blasted online and actually got the police involved. So it's safe to say he couldn't handle the heat because he hasn't been home since then.
There's only two choices. Stay here, get an apartment, or pay my rent and go back to Toronto and then come back after I get you figured out. There's two options. Stay here, try to find an apartment on Craigslist or something, or pay my rent, go back to Toronto. Even though there's nothing for me back there. There's really nothing for me in Canada, like there's nothing.
Well, let me introduce you guys to Lil Daily, a scummy kick streamer who recently started getting attention online after someone uploaded a compilation of him hitting his dog and threatening his own life to Reddit. And this is what this guy claims he came up off of.
Well, that's my thing. My thing is punching the phone. That's, you know, you have your thing that make you different from everyone else. Me is crashing him, punching my phone, spitting on my phone. This is my thing. This is my thing to stand out. That's my thing. Anyone try to steal that, I started that. I started punching the phone. I'm the one that started spitting on the phone. I started that. That's my thing. That's my thing.
Yeah, this unique individual invented hitting his phone and spitting on his phone. Okay, I can't believe this guy's real. Also, his Canadian accent is insane. And while researching this video, I was even on call with a bunch of Canadian friends of mine, and they even gave us permission to laugh at it due to how insane his accent was. But on October 15th, a Reddit user named ChemicalAD6151 warned people of Lil Dealy's awful behavior towards his yellow lab, Peaches. These horrifying scenes included clips of him kicking his dog's metal crate with her inside, threatening to take her life after she took a dump on the floor, and smacking her in the face and body when she barks. And if this is what he's willing to stream on his pig channel, imagine what he's doing when the stream is off. Obviously, I have to be extremely careful of what I show here, but it's not good. And his reaction of his dog going to the bathroom on the floor becomes even worse when you realize that he's forced this dog to stay cooped up in this tiny Toronto apartment for days at a time, rarely taking her out for bathroom breaks or exercise in general. Like, if you just take this 21-hour-long VOD of his Rumble account, for example, Dealey doesn't take Peaches out a single time. And on top of that, the only time he's feeding her is when he gives her a slice of Domino's pizza. Hello? And then he spends the rest of the stream hitting a bong, playing music videos on his TV, and then complains about having no friends. Dude, I wonder why.
Theater popcorn for what? With each bite, you will feel more lonely.
Yeah, well, by myself, popcorn by myself, no one to watch a movie with, no one to go with, no friends to go get with, no one to go to the club with, no one to drink with, no one to talk to. I'm just, my life is stupid.
So he's not only just being awful to his dog on stream, he's also openly neglecting her basic needs as well. And possibly every one of these painfully long streams. He's hitting her, feeding her fast food instead of actual dog food, and essentially hotboxing his apartment when the dog is sitting there right with him. And it's not like they're in a big space. But like I said previously, he is no stranger to streaming himself doing horrible stuff. It's kind of like on brand for him to have a temper, which I guess could be okay on its own, but not when there's an animal or another human involved in the middle of it.
That says, oh man, now this song, turn it up before you jump.
I just broke my microwave, bro. I just broke my microwave, bro.
But still, I mean, these clips were disgusting enough by themselves that they immediately started going viral, and the internet tracked Dealey down almost instantly. There were tons of YouTube videos posted about the situation with millions of views between them. People started doxing him and his address, as well as contacting the Toronto police and local animal rescues, hoping that anyone with some kind of authority would step in and remove the dog from a clearly not good home. But as soon as all this went viral, Lil Dealey literally fled the country with $6 to his name and Peaches panting in the back seat, running from consequences and hoping to partake in an Ice Poseidon scavenger hunt, as if that event needed more degenerates.
I did hear that some guy is flying or like driving here from Canada, and he has $6 in his bank account. I just want to throw that out there. If he's coming, nobody has any excuses, you know?
I'm sure he thought that winning the scavenger hunt would be his golden ticket and that would just solve all of his woes, even though he probably would have just blasted all of that winnings on Tinder Gold.
Transmission oil temperature indicator. Oil temperature.
Oh, like oil, that's bad.
But since he clearly didn't win, it now seems like he's going to have to start selling off his vape teas if he wants to continue living out of motel rooms or face the music back home. Because even though he's apparently out of money, he doesn't seem to be in any rush to get back to his apartment in Toronto. So I wonder why. It could be because Toronto police are allegedly very aware of him. With all the attention on him, newcomers entered his chat and begged him to surrender his dog, wherever he was. People even offered money to exchange for her. Although, who knows how serious they were, and at the end of the day, Dealey didn't bite. But someone did, however, pay for him to buy actual dog food, while others threatened him about returning to Toronto or, frankly, showing his face anywhere. But Dealey was just amping up his affection for Peaches, constantly deflecting and denying that those awful clips were even real.
That's some water. You still got water. You just spoiled.
And then on top of that, he also claimed that they were edited.
You think it's not edited? Or you don't think he cut out the parts when you think I actually told I was serious when I was telling my dog I was going to NGT? You think I was serious there? These kids actually think I was serious when I was saying I was going, oh my god. If you actually believe that, you're brain dead. If you watch the full clip, you'll see what I said in the clip. I said, look, my dog don't understand anything I say. My dog doesn't understand English. I'm like, watch this. Look, I'll put that scroll there. Look, I'll do this stuff. Put it in here.
And honestly, it's pretty common to see kick streamers, and my initial reaction is, how are they not banned yet? But I guess they just don't care about people being complete degenerates on their platform, even though it makes Kick look terrible. But I mean, ultimately, the dude's still alive. He still has Peaches with him, and he decides his next move on the fly. So who knows what will happen next?
Really, all your hard work is finally paying off.
And even though the story exploded on social media and people are still working to get this dog removed from him, to this day, he rarely streams to more than 100 viewers. His content is literally so bad he couldn't even capitalize off the negative attention and pander to some brain-rotted middle schoolers. And I guess what's worse for him is most of the viewers he does have just spends their time taunting him with text-to-speech, hoping to get him angry, which seems to be pretty easy once he starts drinking. Essentially, it's just the same type of audience that we see most of the IRL streamers we already cover have. And in fact, most of his streams end up something like this clip. And recently, he's screaming at his chat more often than not. It seems like that's really his only social interaction right now, and it's sending him down an even more concerning path.
I got nothing. Put on your mom's plate. Put on your mom's plate. I'm legally allowed to have it. I'm legally allowed to have it in my building, in my condo. Dumbass. I'm legally allowed to have it. Legally, I have my.
But I guess, at least in his old clips where he would threaten people, there was some sort of IRL friend that would try to at least talk him down instead of just egging him on.
Yo, brother, are you recording? No. Are you recording? No. Yo, this guy's recording right now. I'm a live streamer.
But it's clear though, when you start going through more clips like this, you realize what we're seeing is currently just like the surface of Dealey's temper and violent behavior. Because as he becomes more desperate for money and views, it's concerning to think that this in fact might even escalate. And honestly, I have no clue where his family is in all this. I would definitely be worried if I were them. He has mentioned that he is in contact with his parents and siblings, and even if they were willing to help him, Lil Dealey seems unlikely to accept anything from them anyways.
I don't want to ask you, but you know how bad I feel, bro?
One of my number one pet peeves in this world is me asking people for money. That's one of my number one pet peeves. You asking someone for money like that I know, like especially my parents or like my sisters or anyone like that.
But clearly, the dude has no shame. And he does insinuate that most people back home have rightfully labeled him as a dog abuser. So that could also be contributing to why he does not want to come back to Canada, or even get back in contact with his family or friends.
Like, everyone in Canada, like, everyone, all my friends, everyone in Canada thinks, like, I'm a dog eater. It's insane, bro. It's insane. Every single person I know thinks I'm, like, not going on my homies. But, like, everyone I know that's not my homies actually thinks I'm a weird. And it's
So I guess for now, he's stuck begging his viewers to Venmo him so he can stay another night at a shitty motel and not have his card decline next time he buys fast food.
What the? Bro, like, what? That's impossible. Like, look, I got like 150 bucks in that. Say no way.
After going through all these clips of this guy, you really do reap what you sow. This is crazy. He can't fully disclose his location since there's likely people trying to find him, either to rescue Peaches or just settle a beef that he started with his chat, and he certainly doesn't want to go home to his now very public address. You have something to say about his dog Peaches? What do you think, buddy? So where does Dealey go from here? Well, he's streaming himself living in America with no job beyond panhandling for subscribers and no intentions of going home. It, unfortunately for him, feels inevitable that someone's going to take that dog from him, whether it's lawfully or just by physical force, because there's like a whole internet clique trying to track him down and find that dog. It's like an online Saving Private Ryan, but for his dog. If he stops paying rent in Toronto or wants to move to Florida like he says he does, we have to assume that he will at least have to go back and get his stuff. And let's be real, if he does do that, people might be waiting for him, and people obviously know that he's coming back, because I guess he just can't stop live streaming himself crash out for like 18 hours every single day.
I'm not running. I'm American now. My bank is switched. Everything, like, I'm done. Like, I'm not a Canadian no more. I'm American. I'm not a Canadian anymore.
Obviously, he claims he's American now. What I did not know is, apparently, if you are half Native American, and he claims that he's Native American, you have something called the Jay Treaty rights. And that essentially just gives you free passage throughout Northern America, which is something I basically just learned right now. So all he has to do to get into the U.S. or to be able to work in the U.S. is prove that he's Native American. Good for him, I guess, but to me, it doesn't seem like this guy is emotionally, mentally, or financially stable enough to properly take care of his dog, because he forces Peaches to live under these same horrible conditions as him, and she suffers as a result. And he's clearly awful to her for the behavior that's his fault, and still does not feed her a proper diet. Who in their right mind will starve a dog all day and then give him a slice of Domino's pizza? What? And again, all of this is just being live streamed for the entire world to see, hence why there's so many people that are worried for his dog. And this has got to the point where these clips are being viewed by millions of people now. But it's also evident that multiple police departments have been notified about him, as well as multiple animal rescues. Plus, Dealey will now have to answer to rent or bills or a random run-in with someone who recognizes him soon enough. So, either way, there will probably be an update on this story, and hopefully Peaches ends up in a safe home soon. But I mean, hey, at least he's not facing a decade in prison for threatening to bomb an anime convention over an energy drink like this woman did, because that's just a crazy story that I would heavily recommend checking out. But other than that, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe, drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Peace.
He tried to expose penguins, so it ruined his life. Shit! One day, Smoke Alana is gonna have, like, this thing and then, like, crossed out eyeballs like I'm dead and shit.
In what world does slandering the creator who exposed you for being a manipulative creep ever turn out well? From Bentelek's perspective, calling Charlie, aka Moist Critical, a liar and a creep was the quickest way to repair his reputation.
I would argue that Charlie reading strangers' private text messages makes
Strangers' private text messages. Already a dishonest and unintellectual thing to say because it's literally like posted in the public. But okay, strangers.
him and his followers more of a creep than me texting a girl.
Oh, he's one of those. Got it.
There's an idiot born every second, and a lot of them are following Moist Critical.
Sadly, Ben was just digging himself into a bigger hole, as his petty, vengeful, and litigious past was about to destroy his reputation a second time. Hi, I'm the Internet Anarchist. I create weekly YouTube documentaries, and today we'll discuss the dubious return of YouTube's least favorite TikToker, Bentelek. What he did to turn the internet against.
How do you put your name is a pun on intellect? How are you so fucking stupid? I find it ironic. Yeah, people say, oh, Alana, you're not smug, and I'm like, oh, I mean, you know, just try not to be too much. People might start thinking things.
Him the first time, why he thought slandering Charlie was a good way to make a comeback, and how it will only make things worse for him in the long run. We've covered Ben once before on the channel, but here's a brief summary of the controversy surrounding his career and his encounter with Charlie. Over the years, Ben has built up a vast social media following across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
How? Who the fuck is this guy? Man, I must be like in tune with like the wrong algorithm, because like I don't think I've ever heard of this guy. Slop TikTok content? Yeah, but I like VTubers, so I mean, it's my own form of slop.
By reacting to other people's memes. While he received criticism for making low-effort content and copyright striking other people's videos about him, Ben was still well liked by his fans.
That is some pussy-ass motherfucking shit. Chat, if I ever fucking copyright strike people for no reason other than them criticizing me, nah, man, I hope my audience would fucking call me out on that shit.
Unfortunately, that all changed in July of 2023, when the creator Jordan Max shared a series of damning messages that revealed how Ben was leveraging his platform to try and hook up with OF models. According to Jordan and the screenshots provided, they
I mean, he just wants some pussy, I don't know.
a podcast collaboration plan, but Ben decided to call it off mere hours before shooting because she refused to film OF content with him. With tech reading, I was just thinking you're helping me with doing a video for my YouTube, so maybe I could help you with your OF. Hey, gonna do the pickle video with someone else. Thanks though. Within days, several other women came out with similar stories of Ben turning aggressive and petty when they rejected him, in a bid to mitigate the damage.
I love men, but why are there men that exist like that? You get rejected and that's just like how you react. That's mom pee energy for sure. Like, you pussy ass bitch, there's millions of fucking men in the world that get rejected and they don't fucking freak the fuck out and, you know, say, oh, I fucking hate women, and start harassing them, bro.
To his reputation, Ben threatened to sue Jordan for simply publishing the screenshots. However, his desperation to hide the situation only made the claims against him even more credible. When viewers confronted Ben with evidence, he didn't deny it and tried to downplay the controversy by saying, quote, people are upset over PG text messages. To see such a popular creator take advantage of that popularity to manipulate people into sleeping with him naturally revolted his audience. Once the backlash became too severe to ignore, Ben released this half-hearted apology to hopefully save his reputation.
It's no ukulele and it's on TikTok and not YouTube.
The first thing I want to say is I'm sorry to anyone that I've made feel uncomfortable. I want to say to any girl who I've been rude to, whether through text or in person, that I'm sorry. I understand that me being sorry does not excuse that kind of behavior. I will continue to work on myself and do better. Thanks, guys.
To anyone watching, Ben wasn't making this apology because he felt sorry, but because he wanted to maintain his career. When that didn't work, Ben deleted all traces of the apology from his social media. Unfortunately, that didn't stop the news of his misconduct from spreading like wildfire across the internet, as creators like Penguin Zero wasted no time in roasting him for such dubious behavior.
So, did he stand by every single word that he said? Let's look at his initial apology, which he deleted pretty shortly after posting it, and then also hid replies on. Let's look at his first apology. I've recently been accused of some heinous actions and would like the opportunity to share my disgust at these accusations. I'm a firm believer in the rights and equality of all humans, including women.
I love women. I love nothing more than women. I love women so much. You guys need to know about how much I love women. Don't worry, I love women. Have I told you that I love women?
If that's not the biggest red flag immediately, I don't know what else is.
Yeah.
I stand by the rights for all humans, and that does include women.
Women are barely humans,
I'm
yeah.
including them in that statement because
How do you not have someone proofread that shit, not tell you like, hey, retard, like you unironically fucking messed up here. Can you like fix it? This guy just ripped it and was like, yeah, this sounds really good.
that's the kind of angel I am.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like he's drawing a distinction between women and every other human on the planet, like they're a totally separate species.
Knowing Ben's litigious tendencies, Charlie clarified that any attempt to sue him or copyright strike the video would be met with an immediate and swift legal response.
Also, Ben, I know you're still watching. You probably plan on suing me if I show your apology video because you've employed this tactic before against other YouTubers if they've shown clips of your content to make fun of you. You allege that it's stealing your work and you have the legal ground to take it down and come after them. You don't. That's not how that works. Me showing this is not any kind of violation in any way, shape, or form. So if you do try and sue me or copyright claim this video, copyright strike the video, anything like that, I will 100% respond with every single option at my disposal in order to follow this legal case through to its fullest conclusion.
From the end of 2023 until mid-2024, the controversy Ben desperately wanted to hide almost completely became public knowledge. As a result of his own dishonesty, Ben had lost the goodwill of his fan base, which completely wrecked all of his social media growth. If Ben had only taken accountability for what he did and made a proper apology, he could have avoided this outcome.
It's not even about the proper apology. He deleted the video and then said, guys, I love women. I just fucking love women, man. I love them so much. Like, what is going on, man? And copyright strike! You're Streisand affecting your own fan base. I have to remind myself that there's people like the woman who played Snow White that shot herself in the foot multiple times, and that no amount of PR will help them, man. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Ben isn't the type of person to acknowledge his mistakes. Instead, he tries to twist the narrative after the dust has settled. On the 8th of September 2024, Ben would upload a video titled Commentary Channels Love to Lie, in which he tried to minimize his
I mean, some do. I'll admit that. I've seen some shit.
horrible behavior by making the people reporting it look like clout chasers. Starting with the false copyright strike he made against Nick is Not Green, Ben tried to justify it by claiming he didn't know the difference between claiming and striking someone, and considered it a normal procedure when others use your content.
This is why I hate YouTube sometimes, man. I hate YouTube for that. I actually got copyright struck for a video one time, and then I messaged them and they said, oh, sorry, my intern accidentally struck you when we meant to make it a claim, and I'm sorry, we're gonna retract it. Yeah, it was a really long time ago. I think it was like a dog video or something where I looked at like Shiba Inus or something. Or was it something else? But it doesn't matter. Like, the distinction between the two and how one doesn't ruin your channel and the other one does within like fucking like a snap of your fingers, people are ignorant to it and it's really annoying. But then there's also people who fucking abuse it and say, oh, well, I didn't know any better.
But Ben had copyright struck the previous video he'd made on him.
Not just copyright claim, but copyright strike. This did happen. This was in 2021. I just point blank thought when someone used your videos, you put in a copyright claim. I didn't know there was a difference at the time between strike or claim or whatever.
The way Ben presented things made it seem like a careless mistake,
Yeah, sure,
but that
buddy.
becomes very hard to believe when you look deeper into the situation. Anyone using the YouTube copyright system would be more than aware of the serious consequences.
And you have millions of subscribers? Like, let's say he only has, I'm throwing a number here, but at the start we saw he had millions of subscribers. There's no way! Like, you haven't dealt with that shit before? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Even if you have a company handling that shit for you, you have to be a modicum of aware. That's bullshit.
Is associated with filing a copyright strike, especially a creator with over 1 million subscribers. How could he have gone through the entire filing process and not even understood what he was filing?
Exactly.
Either Ben, 1, ignored the critical information from YouTube about the copyright system while filing the strike and didn't bother to do any research on it, or 2, was aware of the consequences and filed it anyway. Whichever one it was, Ben was clearly at fault for misusing the copyright system. If you apply Ben's logic to his own content, then almost all of his videos would be liable for a copyright take.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Down
On the
because he
memes and
uses other
shit.
people's content in their entirety.
Is this on YouTube or TikTok? I think it's on YouTube. Yeah, okay.
In their entirety. I'm always looking for ways to make traveling easier and less stressful. Between booking flights, finding accommodation, and planning activities, the last thing I want to worry about is getting hit with ridiculous transaction fees or struggling to manage my budgets. You can check out this video's sponsor Revolut using the link in the description and get $40 after your first purchase. Revolut is a global money super app used by more than 50 million people worldwide. It's simple to set up an account in minutes and instantly start spending through Apple or Google Pay. When I'm abroad, I get competitive exchange rates for 30 plus currencies and no high fees. And check this out. My Revolut Metal card not only looks sleek, but is personalized and comes with perks like discounted airport lounge access. Revolut is packed with security features, like like single-use virtual cards for safer online shopping and the ability to freeze your card instantly if it goes missing. You can also get up to 5% cash back at stores like HelloFresh and Ray-Ban directly in the app. Check out Revolut using the link in the description and get $40 after your first purchase. With that being said, let's get back into the video. Ben downplaying his copyright abuse wasn't the only manipulative tactic Ben used to obscure his mistakes, as he tried to make his disgusting messages to Jordan Max seem like a drunken mishap.
So this girl DM'd me a year prior on Instagram, basically wanted to go grab a drink. Never ended up happening. A year later, I was starting a podcast, got drunk the day before she was gonna come over, and
Do you want to make a video for OnlyFans? When? Today? No. You need a TTS test from the last 14 days and an OnlyFans creator account. I mean a video for your page. Doing what? Sucking my fucking pee hole. Bitch.
so, yep, this is a drunk text at noon. I was blackout drunk.
You're blackout drunk at noon. I find that so hard to believe.
It's just dumb. It was just stupid.
Looking back at Jordan's tweet, all she really did was...
It reminds me of the fucking video we watched a couple of days ago that was like, I had a mimosa at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly what had been done and provided proof of said actions. When he recounted these events, Ben lied about the timeline by stating that the texts took place a day prior, when it was mere hours before their meetup. Not only that, but he also left out how the reason he cancelled their collaboration was because she refused to sleep with him. Ben is clearly twisting the facts to make himself look better, and when the evidence was too damning to deny, he resorted to call it a lie without any proof.
This whole comment.
All you have to do most of the time to disprove one person's point of view is to provide your own evidence, and that's truly what I believe. People are saying, oh well, Alana, she for example with the Cinder thing, she didn't provide any fucking messages. She just yapped. If she provided anything, like even just Snapchat, or I'm not saying she should have, but like anything. I don't know, man. These people are insane. Drama farming, fucking cloud chasing demons.
I don't care what anyone says about it. This right here, I don't know who put it out. Hey, oh my god, I dealt with
Snapchat is cringe, but like, god damn, man.
Intellect 2 actually is about a lot of women. Where's the name? This is just a text message, and people take it as like a story. It's not a story. Let me just say this. The story is that I started a podcast to leverage my fame to sleep with women. False. And
okay, you didn't intentionally do it, but it definitely helped.
any other person who tells you otherwise is lying. For fame, for views, or whatever reason. I got drunk at noon and texted a girl who was
hyper-fixating on the fact that it was noon. So it would have been fine if it was like late at night.
DM'd me a year before and asked her if she wanted to hook up. That's not that crazy.
Despite asserting that these messages were fake, Ben did acknowledge his connection to one of the women listed, but stated it wasn't the public's business since it was a private conversation.
This girl and her and I met on a dating app in 2017, hung out once, and then I think hung out 5 times over the course of like 3 years. Never dated. Only hung out when we drank. This text message combo was a private text message between me and her. I was drunk and texting her, yup. There's nothing in this text message that is any of the public's business. If you read someone's private text messages as content, you're a clown, straight up.
Private messages or not, Ben had a pattern of getting aggressive towards and insulting women who didn't give him what he wanted.
I will say that it is cringe to farm content to that extent, but at the same time, if it's a public message and you are trying to get information out there and trying to see if it's happened to other people, for example, I keep saying the Cinder thing, it's relatable. You need to have like a response or a retort instead of being like, oh, I was drunk texting at noon and like I didn't make this podcast in mind of like sleeping with women and like telling women that I want to bang them. It's like, but we have proof otherwise. Like, why wouldn't as proof of, I don't know, maybe being nice to women.
The excuses of being intoxicated doesn't change the reality of what he did, and viewers were more than ready to echo that sentiment in the comment section below. Reading, "You realize being drunk in that moment makes it so much worse," and "Funny how you was drunk every time you texted them." Throughout the video, Ben couldn't admit to his mistakes and tried to make it seem like the coverage of his behind-the-scenes behavior was just people hating on him. As long as he could paint the people calling him out in a bad light, Ben felt like he was in the right, and was even comfortable enough with that reasoning to take things a step further.
Exactly, the classic ad hominem. It works on really stupid people. Stupid people will believe you, but smart people will see through it. They're like, they're attacking them, but not actually the argument.
By calling his critics clowns.
This is fake, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake, and this is fake. So if you've seen this video, it's BS and he's a clown. If you've seen this video, it's BS.
Sunny B2.
Yes, and he's a clown. And if you've seen this video, it's BS and he's a clown. Hope this helps.
As you'd imagine, viewers were very very quick to point out Ben's extremely weak rebuttal to the criticism, with a comment stating, "Your argument is just saying they're wrong? You're so bad at this, you don't even have evidence that they are actually wrong. Someone didn't go through Lapse in Judgment 101, I see." This wouldn't be the last time Ben tried to slander his critics to save his skin, as he doubled down on this sick strategy going into 2025. However,
and also apologizing? Did we just forget that he apologized and then deleted the fucking apology? Fucking two-faced rat.
But it would cause him more harm than good. By the 16th of March 2025, Ben uploaded a video to TikTok captioned, "This guy is a creep," in which he framed Charlie's coverage of him as baseless slander.
Today I want to talk about someone. His name
I heard
is
you
Charles
saying
White.
something.
He made a video slandering me over a year ago, but the damage
And you're still mad about it.
it caused still affects me, my career, and my mental health to this day.
Okay, sue him.
Which is why I'm making this video. He made up a story reading fake screenshots from Twitter that I started a fake podcast to get girls, fans girls specifically, to come and hook up.
I remember that video. That's not what he said. He said that he got the clout that he wanted and thought he could talk to women like property. It wasn't, like, I love the framing of that. You can immediately, like in a court of law, you can absolutely disprove this in like 2 seconds.
Like, he uses this podcast as a way of just, like, the whole podcast existence is only here as a way of trying to get Ben to, like, laid.
I later put out a video explaining that Jordan Max had put out fake screenshots and debunked the theory that came from me actually starting a podcast with Maria Smith, a friend of mine. I literally put out an apology video because I was sick and tired of the endless harassment. I wouldn't be respecting myself.
But it leaves out the part where he deleted it. Big note right there.
If I didn't speak my truth.
Following this, Ben complains about the damage it did to him on YouTube and even threatens legal action against Charlie.
There's a lot of people who unfollowed me because of Penguin's video. Let me give you an example. This video did millions of plays on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. But the same video only did 13,000 plays on YouTube, even though I have 3 million subscribers. A lot of fans have recommended that I sue Charlie.
You're gonna sue him because your fucking YouTube didn't push your YouTube short not as hard as 2 other fucking platforms? Have you ever thought that maybe that it's just that the YouTube audience doesn't want your stupid shorts? Like,
Commentary channels even make videos detailing the damage. I would argue that Charlie reading strangers' private text messages makes him and his followers more of a creep than me texting a girl. There's an idiot born every second, and a lot of them are following Moist Critical.
At this point, anyone who knew the truth about the situation called him out in the comments, but Ben was desperate to keep his facade intact, with a commenter stating, "You can try your hardest to deny the truth, but you know what you did. Charlie exposed you, and you continue to hide behind this lie you've crafted. Own up to it." Where Bentellect responded by stating, "That's cute, show me the names and faces to match the screenshots." You can't. case closed. This wasn't the first time Ben had retroactively slandered people who criticized him, as he tried to label Billie Eilish as a bully for making a parody of his content.
Over the years, Billie Eilish...
Nah, if you're getting farmed by fucking some normie celebrity... It's actually...
Felt that she had no justification to talk about people hating her.
Here, she gave us her feelings.
Making a parody of someone constitutes harassment. Billy did was demonstrate precisely what Ben was doing under all of the memes on his page. Yet he interprets that as an attack and tries to convince the audience of the same thing. Fortunately, many of them were willing to take a more objective approach to the situation, with comments stating, "I think she was just demonstrating what it looks like to scroll and laugh. I don't think she was hating," as well as, "I'm not really a Billy fan, but I don't think she was trying to be mean to you." Going back to his YouTube channel, Ben has made several community posts wrapping the narrative around his bad reputation and history to make it seem like people were hating him for no reason. And people were initially on Ben's side because they didn't know the allegations against him. But the table shifted when more users began noticing his posts, with one commenter even stating, "You don't have the time, huh? Then why you post this then? Put the fries in the bag, buddy."
There's nothing more insulting than someone telling you to fucking put the fries in the bag, bro, as an influencer or a content creator.
What if I in the back anyway?
From that.
Even now, the misconduct Ben was trying to obscure was still costing him subscribers. As one user stated, "Just saw the allegations about the OF podcast, just unsubscribed. Didn't want to watch someone who was doing supposed shady stuff. I'm not saying you did this, I just don't want to follow someone who can't be honest or trusted." Seeing the writing on the
That's
wall,
fair.
Ben understood that the YouTube community...
I find comments like this kind of cringe. I would never do this myself. I silently unfollow and unsubscribe, but...
going to give him a second chance, and uploaded this salty community post. "Stay in school, kids. You'll never be a YouTuber." Ben's recent YouTube metrics, the pattern only becomes more apparent, as his slander campaign against Charlie and his other critics has cost him over 10,000 subscribers. The more Ben tries to cover up his past, the more people find out about it. What's even more concerning is how this effect would be multiplied if he continues to go after the people that exposed him. Whether Ben realized it or not, trying to expose Charlie wasn't going to make people forgive or forget how he abused his platform. Even if Ben were to sue Charlie or get a response from him, the outcome wouldn't be in his favor. As one commenter put it, "My guy, it's over. Just take the L. If by some chance he even sees this video, he knows how desperately you would love a back and forth. He knows that you would even accept playing the deserved role as the villain as long as you got views again. You honestly think he has even thought about you for over a minute in the past 6 months? He's not gonna engage. If you got slandered, sue him. If you were a creep, don't. Either way, your relevance is done."
He's a fucking clout demon, chat. Thank God, man. I just don't care. Like, yeah, oh wow, you're...
What's happening with Moist Critical? The only difference...
Durable damage is a weird stat that takes some thinking to understand. But through tireless efforts, I have found a way to dumb it down for y'all. Every enemy and their parts has a durable value. We'll use Alpha Commanders as an example, since they are my most hated enemy on the bugs, and the Bonkinator absolutely demolishes them. This asshole has a giant head, but a tiny brain. So his head has a durable value of 70%. Our Jar 5 does 275 damage with 90... being durable damage. If you want to know how many shots it'll take to pop that fascist dome off, you'll take 70% of the 90 durable damage, which is 63, and 30% of the base 275 damage, which is 82.5. I'm rounding down, for a total of 145 damage. This wannabe alpha's head has 250 HP, so it takes 2 shots to liberate him of his bad ideas. Basically, some enemies have parts that take less damage, so you'll need to shoot them more than you might think. And the reason for that is the tyranny of durable damage is a
Alright. End this ring now.